Okay, good morning, class. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Friday, just a smidgen after noon. Um, and I thought I'd get in and start working on the um, videos for the Module 2, the intermediate drawings. And there's some big things that we have to cover in this first video. Geometrically speaking, from an AutoCAD or drafting perspective, we're not really talking about a more complex drawing. Okay, so in terms of commands, in terms of laying out the drawing, that's not really what that's about. But we are going to be adding layers of complexity in terms of preparing the drawing, both on the front end and on the back end. Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to have a look at the adjustable fork. This is the first of two drawings right at the beginning of the Module 2 for the intermediate drawings, the adjustable fork. It's the drawing that does not include orthographic views, so I'll cover that one later. But in this, we're really going to be focusing on four different, I don't even want to say commands, okay? They're kind of commands, but, let's not think about them in terms of commands or not commands. Let's just think about them in terms of, parts of the drawing and parts of getting the drawing prepared for printing, okay? So the big thing that we're working on in Module 2, in addition to just working on drawings that are more involved, is the layers and preparing a drawing for printing. And by printing, I mean on a title block and border. Okay, so we're going to be looking at layers. We're going to be looking at the center mark and the center line command. That kind of comes into play with layers. And we're going to be talking about grips and how we can use grips for different things. And then with respect to the to starting the drawing with a template, we're going to be starting a new drawing with the MVCC mechanical inch template. Okay, so hopefully you've watched the videos where we introduce the templates and a little bit of background information. Now we're actually going to use them, and when we start to use the template, we have to get into viewports, viewport scaling, and then also title block information. Okay, so we got a lot on our plate. I'm not sure whether this is going to be a two-part video or one-part video. We'll just have to see. I don't like making really long videos because I think it's easier if we have two videos and break it up. But anyway, hey, let's get started. So the adjustable fork that we're going to be working on is this drawing right here. Okay, so definitely this is a drawing that we could put in Module 1. From a geometrical perspective, it's not that difficult. But what I do want to point out is we're going to be replicating the center marks and center lines. So here we have the center lines and center marks right there. When you have a cross, right, that's called a center mark, right? When you have just a line, that's called a center line. And these, of course, are going to be placed on the center line layer, okay? So that's really our foray into layers right now, just using them. We'll be making layers later. Okay, so that being said, let's jump in. And of course, we got to get started with a template. So we're going to start our new drawing. Hopefully you have your templates set up on in a folder that you can find. There was some videos prior to this where we went over that. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out those videos before you get into this. But here's my 2020 MVCC mechanical inch template. So I'm going to start a new drawing with that. And boom, there we go. Okay. And so it doesn't look like much changed. But if you go up to the layers, right? And we haven't even talked about layers with Module 1, so now we're going to be talking about them. And if you go up to the layers, now we have a full array of layers. So if I expand this layer drop-down panel, There's all the layers that I need, right? The colors are really there just for visualization purposes. The real trick with layers is line weight and line type. So these are all set up with the proper line weight and line type. If I go to layer properties, right? So this drop down list is for me to switch layers while I'm drawing. I almost said driving. Do not do CAD while you're driving, by the way. So here's the layer properties window, and I'm going to shrink this up just a little bit. There we go. And so you can see the same list of layers, right, as the drop down. But here, notably, the check mark indicates that's the current layer, and you can see it right. Whoops, where is it? Let's move this a little bit. There we go. Whoops, I didn't want to move it that far. Okay. You can see the current layer right there is visible, and that's the check. Okay. But what I wanted to show you here is that we have line types. And again, notice I can move across this column and I can expand it or shrink it by moving, getting the double-headed arrow, clicking with the left mouse button, and then dragging it across. It's the same thing in Word tables, Excel tables, anything like that, right? Any tables. And then line weight. So line type and line weight. All right. So in a few lessons in the future, we'll get into creating layers and all that good stuff. Right now, we're just going to focus on using them. So I'm going to make that go away by clicking the X. And the other change is down across the bottom, you'll notice that we no longer have layout 1 and layout 2. Now, in addition to model, we have ANSI A portrait, ANSI A landscape, ANSI B, ANSI C, ANSI D, ANSI A portrait with attributes, blah, 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 all the way through. Now, let me just say that, well, actually, I'll hold off on doing that, what I was going to say until we get to that part. All right, so let's go back to model. And let's start our drawing. All right, so here's our object that we're drawing. It's not very complex. But let's use the commands that we have at our disposal right now in our toolbox, right? So first of all, I want to draw on my visible layer. All right, that's the layer that I'm going to be drawing. Visible is for visible lines. Visible lines means the ones that you see, not the hidden lines, and so on and so forth. So on the visible layer, that's my current layer, I'm going to go to draw, there we go, and choose center mark, or excuse me, choose construction line. And I'll just put in a horizontal line right there, and I'm going to put a vertical line right there. And then I'll hit escape to get out of that. All right. Now, let's start using the offset command. And like I said, I love, the offset is just the easiest. It's the most logical way to go here. So I'm going to offset 8 and go here. We'll go back to offset by hitting the space bar and then typing 3 and then coming back here. And you remember my admonishment to you, do not do math when you're doing a drawing, okay? So in other words, I went from here, 8 forward, and then 3 back. And you might be saying, Chuck, you could do 8 minus 3 and just do 5 from here. Yes, I know. But I don't want you to get into the habit of doing that because that introduces a source of error, an unnecessary source of error. Especially for more complex, obviously 8 minus 3, duh, that's easy, but, fractions or decimals, it gets more difficult. And also, it removes a check of this drawing. If somebody is doing this drawing, if an engineer is sketching this out and you're supposed to replicate it in AutoCAD, and that engineer makes a mistake, and you miss that mistake because you're busy assuming things and doing math, then you're part of the problem, okay? So, use the dimensions that are given. Alrighty. So 8, 5, that's all good. Let's go back to offset and 1.25, and we'll offset this line up and this line down. Yeah, that's good for right now. Oh, we'll do one more. And I'm going to give away the farm here. Most people screw this up. 0.75 is the total width, right? if I'm offsetting from the midline here, I want to offset this line half of 0.75, not 0.75. A lot of people get that wrong. I'm giving you guys an easy fix for your problems, or a heads up for your potential mistakes. So 0.375 is half of 75. Let me go like that. Okay. So, all right, so let's get to drawing here. So we want a circle with a radius right here of 0.5, and ditto right there, 0.5. And I'm going to put another one in here with a radius of 1, like so. Okay, let's zoom in. Let's draw a line, and I'm going to use Object Snap to draw a line from here to here, and from here to here, and from here to here, and there we go. We finished that up. Okay. Now, at this point, I'd like to go ahead and trim this up. There's a lot of extra lines, and I can go ahead and trim as I'm going. I would kind of say, whoops, that's offset. I would kind of say not to just pick everything on the screen, because you will end up clicking a lot of lines to get this. So it makes sense to just choose this line and this line to trim from, okay, to start with. And then I'm going to trim this and this and this and this. All right. So sometimes we don't just pick everything on the screen. Now let's go over here, and this is a circle with a radius right here of 0.75, and another circle concentric with a radius of 1.25. Okay, which I could have just, you know, if I was aware of things, I could just stretch that right there. All right, so now let's work on the right side of the drawing. So I already have that line in there, so I'm just going to click right here and draw a line from here to the end. Notice that my object snap comes up and helps me find that endpoint. Notice also that I get the object tracking that helps me zero in on a horizontal line. So there's all kinds of things that AutoCAD is throwing up at me that are really helping me if I'm aware of them and if I'm using them. Okay, let's trim, right? So trim, let's pick this line, and we'll just get some of this done. Actually, I can get all that done there. Get that like that. All right, and so far so good. And so now you should start to see what this looks like. Maybe we could do another trim and just get rid of some of these lines. I like using the crossing window when I'm trimming things. It's a good practice to get into. And one more trim, and let's trim this back here and here. There we go. All right. So far so good. Ooh, one more trim. Let's just get rid of that. We can erase this line and erase that line. All right, and we're at the home stretch, right? We're going to use the fillet command to put a fillet in there. But knowing how fillet works, I'm going to go ahead and trim this back like that. Okay, I only need to do one of them, right? Because it'll trim out the other ones. But you know, this just avoids, because you know what's going to happen, and I know what's going to happen. It's going to, you know, take out the whole thing, and we don't want that to happen. So we go to fillet. The radius on these fillets is 0.25. So remember, you type R and hit enter, and then enter the fillet radius, and then hit enter again, and then we can go like this. And because I didn't use the multiple option, I rarely remember to use the multiple option, if I'm honest here. My small walnut-sized brain just doesn't permit that much forethought. And then I can erase that. And then there we go. Okay. So we're done with the geometry. Now we want to go and add the center marks. Okay. All right. So let's turn our attention to putting these center marks and center lines in here. And we're just going to copy what we have here. So essentially we have a long center line going through here horizontally, and a center line going here. Actually, an upper center mark here and a lower center mark there and a center mark here. So we got to put all these together. And AutoCAD recently came out, last few versions ago, came out with these commands under the annotate ribbon. And you can see them under the center line panel. We have center mark and center line. So let me just show you what they are first. Okay, so for center mark, I click on that, and then it says select an arc or circle, and I'm going to pick the outermost one, and it puts the center line in there. Center mark, I should say. Why do I pick the outer one? Well, let me pick the inner one here, and I'll show you. Okay, so you see it doesn't quite stretch far enough. We want it to look like this. Okay. Now these have been set by us in the template, in the MVCC mechanical inch template, to have the appropriate dimensions of overhang. Okay, as much as we can. There's some limitations with the center mark command. Stuff I'm not real happy about from AutoCAD that can make it a little bit difficult to use, depending on how you want to use it. There are standards for how we want the center mark to look and the center line. All right. So let me do the center line now. So I'm going to go back up to the center line command now. Click on that, and it says select first line. And what we're going to be picking here are two offset parallel lines. So the obvious choice is this line and this line, and it puts that in between those. Notice that the length of the line, the length of the center line, is only as long as the line that we selected, or lines that we selected, with a little bit of an overhang. Now you can see the overhang here. So let me talk about this overhang now. So there is a standard. A standard basically means a rule. Okay, there is a standard that is used in engineering drawing. In the United States and in the world, there's a different standard, ISO for the world. The ASME standard for the United States, but in our CAD standard, right? Because it matters to me that all of our drawings look the same, right? If we don't have standards, then everybody kind of makes up their own rules for this overhang. Some people might not even have the overhang, right? And some of them might be way long. So we made this CAD standard, which is available on your Canvas site, okay, in Module 2. Actually, it's also in Drawing Resources, but it's in Module 2. And you can see right here, we've stated that we want the overhang to be 312 or 8 millimeters on a center line. And for a center mark, we want the overhang to be 0.09 inches or 2 millimeters. Now this is 0.09 inches, so we've done that for you. This, however, is not 0.312, and that's one of the things. AutoCAD only allows you to have one number there. We have different numbers here. Okay, so you're gonna have to adjust these. All right, so just remember 312 this is an inch drawing, so 312 and 0.09. Okay, if you look on page 2, or the second page of this is page 6. If you look on page 7, there's more about how center lines and center marks should look. Okay, so I encourage you to have this out at the very least while you're doing these drawings. All right, so let's put that away. All right, so how are we gonna fix this? Right, this is kind of a sticky wicket. So let me get rid of this first of all. And let me put in another center mark. And you can do this, you can follow me just like I'm doing here. Center mark, I'm going to put this center mark in here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and click on that center mark. Okay, and you see how I get these blue boxes and a blue triangle. These are called grip boxes. Okay, the blue boxes, if we click on, let's just take it one at a time. If we move in and I'm not clicking anything, all I did was move my mouse there, then that turns into what's called a warm grip. Right now, blue is cold, orange is a warm grip, and it gives me just a dimension, right? So if I wanted to know the length of that, all I got to do is move my cursor in there, and boom, AutoCAD says, hey, that's 1 inch. The arrow does kind of the same thing, 0.09. You can see that that's the case, 0.09 if we move here, right? If we move right here, 1. Now, how are we going to put these two together? Well, we're going to do this. Watch. I'm going to click on this arrow, and I'm just going to move it right there. Okay. So I've kind of glued them together. They're still separate center marks. Right? And if you notice, all the lines are kind of stuck together. So these are what we call in AutoCAD associative objects. The different objects that make up this center mark, that is, in this case, lines, these lines are all associated together or glued together. Now, we can separate these. We can go up to the home ribbon and go to explode right there. And explode is what we use to break up associative objects. But it creates other problems, right? So, and it's just, it's kind of bad practice. It's kind of been frowned upon to explode a lot of things in your drawing. Okay, it's better to work with AutoCAD as much as possible. All right, associativity sometimes is good. So what we do is we just click and stretch, so I can make this look nice. All right, now let's do the center line. So I go, let's go back to annotate and center line, and I'm going to choose these, right? And there's my center line. So how am I going to fix this now? All right, so watch. I'm going to click on the line, and I'm going to get this box. Now I got to do this in 2 stages. Okay, I got to do this in 2 stages. First, I'm going to grab the box, and I'm going to click with the left mouse button, and I'm going to drag it out here, straight out there to that point. And notice the arrow comes with it. So now I have an offset of 0.09. Well, I want an offset of 0.312. So I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to stretch it out, and notice I get that little blue box. I can type in 0.312 and hit enter, and there we go. All right, so let's do that over here. Now this one's a little bit more challenging. I don't actually have a line, so watch. I'm going to pick on the box, click and grab. Now watch this. I'm going to move my cursor up here. I'm not clicking. I'll tell you when I click. I'm not clicking, and I'm going to drag down to right there. And notice I have that white X now. Now I'm clicking. All right, let me do that again. Let me undo it, because I know you weren't paying attention. Now you're paying attention, because you're like, whoa, what kind of witchcraft was that? All right, so watch. And I'll tell you when I'm clicking. I'll say click. 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 Okay. So, and then we can go like this and stretch this and go 0.312. Believe it or not, that takes a fair amount of practice, right? I know because I was there, right? You just want to click. You just want to click everything, right? And so we don't want to do that. All right. Now, let's do one more. Actually, you're gonna get upset because I'm going to change some things. Let's do the center mark, and we'll pick the outer circle and put it right there. See, that's what I don't like. I don't like that line over top of a line. So we're going to do this. I'm going to undo this. If you're watching this, I apologize. I'm going to undo that, right? Go back to this one. I'm going to put in this center mark first. Okay. Now over here, we don't like lines over top of lines, and there's a little bit of an extension on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back to right there. Okay. And now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now, why did I do that? Because I don't want, it's just, again, bad practice. It's bad practice to have lines on top of other lines, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab this, click, move over here, click, and then grab this and go 0.312. Okay. Let's see, why did that not move? I must have done something wrong. Hold on. Let's go to this 0.312. There we go. I don't know why that didn't update, but or extend, but nevertheless, now we're done. Hey, look at that. Okay, and one minor mistake by yours truly. But we'll just call that a teaching moment. Okay, so we have our object more or less like it is in the book, in the figure. Where is it different? Well, it's different in the dashing of the center line. Okay, now to some extent we are not going to be able to solve that, but we can get it pretty close. Okay, so how do we control the dashing in this line? How do we control the dashes? The dashes in any broken line in AutoCAD, be it a center line, a hidden line, a phantom line, whatever line you want to talk about, are controlled by a variable called LT scale. Now, this is a variable you have to type in, all right? LT-SCALE, all right? Whoops, sorry, my cursor wasn't active. LT-SCALE, all right, there it is. And it gives you a scale. Right now, the line type scale factor is 1. Well, if I want less dashes, which I kind of do, right? Let's change this to 0.5. Oh, excuse me, that's more dashes. Hello. If I want less dashes, I'm going to, second teaching moment, I'm going to increase that number. So from 1, we'll go to 2. All right, that looks pretty good, you know? If we want to try that again, we can type in LTS. That's a shortcut for line type scale. Maybe we'll go 3. Okay, that's not too bad. You know, 2.5. 2.5 is good. Let's go with 2.5. Now, let me say this. Do not worry about your line type scale. Unless it is gross, unless you have like a line type scale of 0 or you have so many dashes it looks, you know, ridiculous, or you have no dashes and it looks solid, I'm not going to grade your line type scale. So do not, just get it to look reasonably good like it is here. A 2, 2.5, 3, boom. All right, we're not going to agonize over that. All right, so this is done. We're ready to go. Now I'm going to save this drawing because, gosh darn it, I should always save my drawings, and I don't. I'm just asking for problems. I'm asking for AutoCAD to have a little hiccup and me to lose all my work, which in my case is not really a big deal because I can draw pretty quickly. In your case, I think you'd be probably saying a lot of bad words. So please do as I say, not as I do. And that is save your drawings often. Adjustable fork 1.2. Or excuse me, 2.1. There we go. All right, so I'm going to stop. This is 30 minutes, so I'm going to stop this video. And when I come back, we're going to look at the second part, which is getting this to look good in my title block and border. All right, see you on the other side.